I'm packing up for a Wyoming backcountry discovery route trip, which will take about 6 days. And for that, I've put together some tools that will help me make the trip without help from others, I hope. And maybe be able to help other people. And so I've done several BDRs and a lot of motorcycle riding. And so I thought I would show you just the basic tools that I take on board that I use for quick fixes on the trail. Probably the most important is the spare tubes. I take a spare tube for each tire. I actually have a patch kit too, but my experience is patch kits are really unreliable, and a lot of times my tube actually just shreds inside the rim. And so I've got a brand new tube for each tire, and to help change the tires I actually have WD-40 that lubes up the rim so I can get my tools in. And I've got some tire spoons here. These are really small. I'd love to have bigger ones, but these fit inside of my Jivvy toolbox, and so I always have that on the bike everywhere I go, even when I'm not on a BDR. So that helps. Another thing that helps for changing tires is this little tool from Motion Pro. This tool helps you to kind of pull the valve stem through the rim. I use really heavy tires. These tires that I'm using are the Motas. Motas are really stiff, and so it's really hard to get your fingers inside when you're changing a tire. And so this just helps you by screwing into the valve stem, and then you pull it through instead of having to jam your fingers up inside. So that's worthwhile taking as well. So those are the things I use for tire changing, and honestly that's I've had to, in the last 3 years, I had to change 2 tires out on the trail of my own, and help other people with theirs. Also, I guess if you're changing a tire, it's pretty important to have the tools to get the wheel off. And so these 2 tools, I think these are kind of cool. I got these off of eBay. They say Honda, they're not made by Honda. But these fit together. They're kind of cool because they're really lightweight. They're made out of aluminum, and they're for the axle nuts on each of the axles. And so that's a really compact way to have an axle nut. And they also fit together like this to create leverage, so you can get a much longer tool. And it's worked really well for me. I've used these probably three times getting the tire off. But I also ran into a situation where my son's bike needed a replacement on trail, and we didn't have any tools for him. These didn't fit his bike. I happen to ride a Africa Twin Adventure Sports, and he's riding a Rally, a CRF 300L Rally, which has different bolts. So I've started carrying this big heavy piece of equipment. It's really not that big, but it's kind of, compared to the other things, it's massive. But this is a Kinepex wrench, and this is really awesome because this wrench it works differently than something like a vice grip. You notice it stays straight and it clamps down at the same time, so you get the strength. And so the reason why I'm carrying this is because it fits all kinds of nuts and bolts, and you don't even have to know which kind it is. And so this one's kind of the do-all. This is mostly to help other people that are in the group with me, because nothing's worse than getting stuck because somebody else can't fix their bike. So that's just an added piece. And another thing for the tires is I have the tire pump. This air pump I just fit right underneath my seat, and it's on the bike at all times. And you can see it plugs right in to an outlet that's similar to the one I plug my phone charger into. So it's really easy, just plug in on the road. I also have some tie downs or zip ties. These zip ties I've never had to use, but I have them there in case I have to hold a tire onto the rim as I roll out of the trail, or to zip tie other pieces of my bike back together. I suppose I could use something like a wire of some sort, but you really have to just decide what you're not going to take a lot of times. There's a lot of things you can take. This might be something a lot of people would not take. I have Honda cleaner. I just really get sick of having bugs all over my shield and over my bike. And so it's worth it to me to have a cleaner to keep my shield clean. And you might notice on this, there's Gorilla Tape. I wrap Gorilla Tape around this. I have Gorilla Tape to fix all kinds of things like body work or pieces that might break on the trail. And I also tape down the tops of all my cans so they don't spray while they're in the backpack. I have chain guard too. This chain guard here is enough to make it through 4 or 5 days of keeping my chain nice and lubed up so I don't have a broken chain. And then for good measure, I've thrown in a little extra of this Gorilla Tape that I keep in a different place just in case I need more. So that's pretty much what I have for tires. I also have some JB weld. This is the quick weld in case I have a crack in the case of my engine or some other thing that needs to be put back together so I can limp off the trail. And a couple of other tools. These Allen wrenches, I've painted colors so they show up when I drop them on the ground because they're gray. They're the same color as pine needles and dirt, so they're bright colors so they show up. And then I've got my little toolkit. This stays with me at all times on the bike, even when I'm not on the BDRs. This is a little Craftsman toolkit. It has all the little pieces you can need. I got this at Ace Hardware. And then I've added on the back side of this, if I can get this out. On the back side, I took this apart, and I'll just put my camera down for a second. On the back side, I've added a wrench that does the bolts on the top of my forks so I can get tires off. So I'll show you those. They're over here. So these cover these bolts right here. So I've added that on the back because it works really smoothly, and you notice I've painted it too. And then I've added a fuse puller and a little socket extension to help me undo things like screws and so forth. So that's what I've got for my little toolkit. This one works really well and it fits in a tight package, and I really appreciate that. So I'll put that back in here. So all of these things I keep wrapped up in socks, and the sock keeps them from bouncing around and getting beat up and keeps them nice and quiet. The last thing I have, oh, here's my socks. Big dirty set of socks, but that holds all the tools. I have 3 pairs of rubber gloves that I got from Harbor Freight because you're going to be cleaning your chain, and you might be doing tires. It's nice to have clean hands if you can, and those don't take a lot of space. So that's the other thing I do. So I keep all of this inside a backpack. You can see I have some packs right here inside of a Jivy toolbox that's on my rack. And then lastly, whoops, on the other side, there's a little box here on the Africa Twin. Lets you put some of the things you don't use so much, which is where I put things like the JB weld. So that's my toolkit, and I'm sure yours is different or will be different, but that's gotten me out of a lot of jams and seems to be light enough weight that I don't end up regretting having too many tools. Because honestly, when you're on the trail, you wish you had less stuff until you need it.